Hello, good people. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Outa and I am a documentary photographer and filmmaker from Nairobi, Kenya. So the purpose of this video is just to tie in to the content that I have been posting in the last few weeks, which is the documentary spec and the interview setups using one light or interview setups in a small space. So my intention today is just to focus on the kind of questions that you would make or we would create for an interview, because the interview is like the most essential part of your documentary, and ensuring that you do it in the right way just helps you to have a solid foundation for your documentary. Because from the interviews, you will have a deeper insight into your character, you will learn more about their process, you will learn more about them, and you will also learn what exactly you need to document as they go along in their journey. So for today, my focus is on building or creating your interview questions, and we will focus on three key things. That is differentiating between the topic and the story. The second thing is the physical and the emotional journey of your character. And the third thing is talking versus listening. So when it comes to differentiating between the topic and the story, the topic is just like a general area of study that you are stepping into, or the general area of study that you are looking at your character with. So for example, when you look at me, you can say that the topic that you would want to learn about me is the area of filmmaking and photography, or the creative industry in general. But when it comes to story, now the story is the personal journey that your character is on. And when you look at my case again, my story can be trying to build a production company in Kenya. You see, those are two very different things, because the filmmaking and photography industry is sort of like a wide lens. And then now, when you narrow down to my story, which is trying to build a production company, you are zooming in or honing in. Let's say zooming in, because we do filmmaking and photography here. So you are zooming in on a specific area of study within my life. So having a topic is good, but having a story is better, because a story is more personal, it's more relatable. Because if you look at my story, trying to build a production company, it can cut across different areas of life, because there are so many other people trying to build businesses. There are so many other people trying to build something from scratch, something that they can call their own. And the first thing that you have to do is to know your topic and then know your story, because this is important, because it helps you sort of structure your questions, because you can have the questions that focus on the filmmaking industry at large, and then you can have questions that are a bit more personal to my story, and you can zone in on them. Yeah, so that is the first point. The second thing that you have to consider is to differentiate between your character's physical journey and your character's emotional journey. So the physical journey is what you see with your eyes, or the kind of progress that you see physically. For example, for me, the progress that you would see physically is now me moving from operating this production company from my home, and now having an office or a studio space. That is the physical journey. But when it comes to the emotional journey is something that you cannot see. It is something that happens within me during the process of building this production company. So I would say, for me, like, the emotional journey would be experiencing the highs and lows of working at home, to experiencing the highs and lows of working in a studio, or having a studio space that I can actually call my office. So physical journeys are external, they are tangible, they are things you can see. And an emotional journey is internal, happens internally within your character. It is something that you cannot see, and it is subjective, because the interpretation of what happens in your character's life or within your character is different from person to person. Because let's say if you would look at me and say, Kevo is having a very good time having an office, or Kevo is having a very good time working from home. And then somebody else would look and say, I feel like Kevo wants to stop working from home and have an office. Yeah, so that is something that happens within your character. And if you do it the right way, then it would be easier for a larger portion of your audience to fully understand the emotional journey of your character. Yeah. So when you look at the physical journey versus the emotional journey, what speaks to the things that you can actually see? These are movements, actions, or external events, and it involves changes in location, physical challenges, or observable actions. But on the emotional side of it, it focuses on internal experiences, feelings, and psychological changes. This involves shifts in perspective, emotional growth, and inner transformations. When you look at where emphasizes the geographical locations, environments, and physical spaces of your characters. This deals with the external world and its impact on the individual. When you look at the emotional side of it, it occurs within your individual's mind and heart. This has to do with internal landscapes, memories, or emotional states. When you look at the when, this relates to chronological events, timelines, and measurable durations. It focuses on the sequences of physical action and occurrences. When you look at on the emotional side of it, it relates to the timing of emotional responses, periods of reflection, and moments of realization. This has to do with the unfolding of inner processes and emotional development. When you look at the who, it actually involves the individuals that your character interacts with, the people who surround your character, and the people who your character relates to on a daily basis. But when you look at the emotional side of it, it focuses on the individual as a subject of their own emotional experiences. It focuses on their inner self and their relationships with their own emotions. So you look at your character from within. I think this is the common theme that is cutting across the emotional side of it. You focus on your character from within. How describes the methods of physical movement, actions, and processes. It concerns the mechanics of how events unfold in the physical world, like in the physical world of your character. When you look at the emotional side of it, how describes the processes of emotional processing, coping mechanism, and personal growth. It has to do with the way in which the characters or your character navigate their emotions or their emotional landscape. Now, when you focus on the why, on the physical side of it, why often relates to external motivations, such as reaching a destination or achieving a physical goal. It can also be related to obtaining physical resources. But on the emotional side of it, why speaks to internal motivations such as seeking meaning, healing, or self-discovery. It can also be related to psychological trauma or the pursuit of emotional fulfillment. So the thing that I have come to learn in my years of making documentaries, because I have mostly focused on developing character-driven documentaries, you cannot focus on where your character is going without focusing on why they are doing it. Yeah. So you cannot focus on the goal that your character has without learning the motivations or the backstory of why they're actually doing this. So it's very important to take your time developing these interview questions, because having a solid base from where you can work from in regards to learning about your character and learning their motivations and learning where they are going will help you make a more complete documentary. And this is something that I am also learning, because I feel like sometimes I focus mostly on how they do the things that they do and why they do the things that they do, without focusing on their overall motivations and how their daily lives interact or interplay with the thing that we are studying about them. So it's very important just to be open with yourself about how you create, and to be open with your character about how you would want to approach them. So this is very important for building your documentary questions or your interview questions. Yeah. The third thing that we are going to focus on is talking versus listening. I know this is I don't want to call it a sore subject, but it's something that is very important, because for myself and for the kind of documentaries that I do or the kind of documentaries that I create, I have come to realize that documentaries are not about me as the filmmaker or how I can create the most beautiful documentary. They are actually about listening to your character. Yeah. So because the story is not yours, the story is theirs. And the only way you can listen to them or get their story and show it in the best light is to actually listen to them. So when it comes to talking versus listening, it's very important to know when to speak or when to keep quiet and listen. So I know, even for myself, there are times where I can be seated here in the house with my friends or my girlfriend or my family and feel the need to fill the silence with words. But that is not the case for every time, because especially when you are talking with someone or you are interviewing someone, I can say also when you are just talking with someone and then you ask them a question, you do not rush to answer it for them, or you do not rush to cut them in the middle before they finish answering it. But you have just to take a step back and listen to them, such that even when they stop talking, you do not jump in as quickly as you can trying to get your point across, but you also just give them the time and the space to breathe, to think, and to give you a bit more of themselves. Yeah. So I think this is very important. You know, by knowing when to listen and when to talk, you know when you can give your character the space to add on something that maybe you would not have expected. And knowing when to talk is now about knowing when to ask more questions, because you can go into a documentary interview with all your questions lined up, but when you actually listen to your character, you know what more you can ask. You know what aspect of them they would want to talk more about, or what aspect of them maybe you have not focused on. So this also speaks to the fact that during documentary interviews, you also have to take notes, but you have to do so in a way that is not distracting to either you as the filmmaker or to your character as your subject, so that when you are busy writing notes, they are not looking to see, what are you writing, or what have I said that is of interest. So you have to do it in a way that is not so distracting. And actually, even as you write them, if you yourself are distracted, you will not know what to ask, or you will miss an important point. So I think that the aspect of listening and the aspect of knowing when to talk is very important as a documentary filmmaker, and is also very important just to help your subject or your character have the best experience with you. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so I think those are the 3 things that I think can help you when building up your documentary interviews, or your documentary interview questions. And I would challenge you to actually take the time, and when speaking to someone, actually try to listen to them so that you know the right questions to ask. And even when you're working on your next documentary project, focus on building a story around the topic that you are trying to study by focusing on and zooming in on one person. Yeah. And also, I think this is also important, not for your character, but also for life in general, just to look within yourself, to understand your own emotional journey, and to understand your own physical journey. Because I think that we as filmmakers are the easiest subjects that we can access. So when you understand your own emotional and your own physical journey, it also makes it easier for you to understand someone else and to know where to push or know where to hold back, so that you can get the most complete version of themselves in the way that they answer you. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful. I feel like that was a mouthful, but sharing my experience is the best way for me to learn. It is the best way for me to actually put into practice what I have learned along the way, because there are things that you may learn, but you actually don't know that you know them until you start speaking about them or start thinking about them. So yeah, this is something that has really helped me a lot, and I think it can also help you. And yeah, I think that's it for me. That's so I think that's it from me for today. I hope you have a good one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting my journey. And I will let you know about how I feel about the Patreon and the Skillshare. Yeah, I think it's something that I am willing to explore more, but I will keep you updated. See you in the next one. Peace, love, and light.